Hey guys, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Andre Seegers, and this time we're joined by Derek Bittner and Ash Paulson to discuss the latest edition of Smash Bros. 3DS, a Game Boy themed stage. So let's get started. Alright guys, Sakurai announced what seems to be a new stage based around the Game Boy, but he doesn't explicitly state that it is a stage, so it's possible it could be something else. Now, I am leaning toward it being a stage by virtue of the fact you see the two characters on screen, being King Dedede and Kirby, and they have their familiar outlines, which means at the least it is a gameplay mode.
It really does have to be a stage at this point. I mean, maybe there could be a mode or something like that, but it looks like a stage. Like they have, as you said, they have their outlines. They even have their special colors, the theme to the original Game Boy, like in Brawl. It just seems to match up too well for it to be anything else other than a stage.
Yeah, it looks like a stage to me, and it's not like it's without precedent. I mean, Brawl had the PictoChat stage, and we've had the flat zone stages, over the past games. So it's not like it's having a stage based on a handheld screen is at all unprecedented. And I think this is super cool if it actually is a stage, and I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, I totally agree. I'm pretty confident it's a stage, and it looks awesome as one. And yeah, one of you brought up the character palettes. Now, do you think that's actually themed because of the stage, or is that just a costume, or is that just like an old school costume? I think they had similar things in Brawl, for instance.
It's probably just a costume because both of them had that color in Brawl, so it just confirmed a return. It just makes me curious whether the other characters that have had Game Boy games will have that color, that theming as well, because that'd be kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think another thing that pretty much confirms it's just a color is the fact that Dedede's hammer is not colored like that.
Yep, that's true.
It's his regular color. It's the hammer's regular color. So those are just alt colors, I'm pretty sure.
So I think part of what makes the stage so appealing is, its super retro look. You got the old school characters, you've got the Game Boy frame, including with a battery indicator on there. And you of course have the yellow tint of the original old school Game Boy. I mean, they really captured the essence of this. And Sakurai himself mentions that, he does a little, like musical caption where they're going ba-ding, just like when the Game Boy first starts up and the Nintendo slides onto the screen. And then he even mentions that, if you have the 3D effect turned on, the screen actually appears to be recessed, just as if you're playing on an actual Game Boy. Which is actually something Nintendo did earlier with their Game Boy emulator. And so I actually wonder too if the battery light indicator might function like it did in the emulator, where the battery light maybe dims when you're running low on 3DS batteries, which would be totally freaking awesome. So yeah, the detail here is awesome, but part of what I'm wondering is, what's going to happen in this stage? But what do you guys think?
Sakurai likes to, make his stages dynamic and pack as much pizzazz and visual flourishes and little nods to previous games as much as he can in Smash Brothers games. So there's no way the stage would just be it's just going to be a blank screen with the Nintendo logo. I'm almost completely sure that it's going to cycle between various classic games.
The thing I'm most curious about, because I pretty much agree with you guys that it can't be just be this, is the dimensions of this stage. Because we've had Flat Zone before in the past, and borders of those stages tend to be really tight. Like you fly off Flat Zone just a little bit, you're going to go off the stage. And with the tiny Game Boy screen there's not much room to fight. Like, that's only two characters, and that's a good portion of real estate taken up by them. So I'm wondering, is really all there is to the stage as far as its width? It just seems like there's so little room to fight here.
That actually is a really good point. I was looking up proportions of other stages of the 3DS, and this is by far as I can tell, the smallest width of any stage we've seen. Yeah, I was wondering the same thing, how can this function? And it's perhaps the one data point I could see being used to support maybe it's not actually like a full stage. Maybe it's just a mode that supports 2 players or something, or maybe 1 player and the other player's like CPU controlled or something.
Right.
That's the only reason I would question its use as a stage. Now, it is possible, maybe the character's proportions change depending on the stage. So maybe if it was as a swapping between games, maybe the character's dimensions will actually match the stage, the stage's environment.
That's true, or the camera could zoom out for certain games. But I point to Brawl again when I say that Flat Zone 2 is also a very small stage, and actually, so it's Flat Zone 1 if I remember correctly. And those are really small stages where it was very easy to get KO'd off the side of the screen. So if this really all there is to the stage, and I kind of think there is, because with those previous stages, you always saw the border of the handheld it was trying to,
Right.
kind of reference. So,
That's true.
it wouldn't be entirely surprising to me if this really was all there is to the amount of space you have to fight. And this just may lead to this not being a popular stage when you're playing with 4 players. I think this definitely seems like a better one-on-one stage based on the size so far than a 4-player stage.
Maybe the actual, like, if you go off screen, you don't die right away like in Flat Zone. Maybe you do have a little bit of wiggle room in the gray areas there where you can't see your character, but you're still alive.
That's true.
Gray areas on the only color the Game Boy could display, Derek.
Well, I see green there, so shut up.
I see barf green. I don't see gray.
So going with the idea that they'll be swapping games throughout the stage, which I think makes sense, because what we see here is the introduction that every Game Boy game starts with. You know what? In fact, to further support that point, if you ever started a Game Boy game without a game inside it, instead of Nintendo, it would just display a black box. So the fact that this displays Nintendo confirms the fact that there's actually a game in this Game Boy, meaning there will be at least one Game Boy themed stage that follows the screen. But before we get to that, but I do want to explore like what we think could appear as stages or as games in this stage. Do you guys think this logo will be interactive? Like, do you think you'll be able to like hop around and use Nintendo as a platform before it disappears?
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, there's no other platforms here, and even in Flat Zone, there were platforms to hop around on.
Right.
So, being the only thing there that would make sense to me, and the only other thing I could think of is maybe grabbing the letters and using them as projectiles.
Ooh.
Which would seem, with how tiny this stage is, I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah.
I don't think so either, but that would be awesome. Particularly because it gives me memories of Vector Man, where you can interact with the Sega logo on the tile screen and do all kinds of crazy things with it.
Mario Paint too.
Oh, there you go. That's another
Mario
example.
Paint, you could do that.
All right, so assuming the stage starts off this way, it won't be long before you get into an actual proper game. And there is so much potential with what they could do here. And there's a precedent for this too with like the Game & Watch stage, as you mentioned, Ash, where in I think it was Flat Zone 2, it actually, or maybe it was both of them, it actually cycled through multiple Game & Watch games. So I'm wondering, what do you guys think? What stages could we see here? What games could we see represented in the stage?
I mean, the obvious one that everybody would think of right away would be probably Super Mario Land.
Well, I would say Mario Land 2.
I'm going to go with the original.
Oh wow, okay.
Mario Land 2 could definitely be in there, but I think Super Mario Land is like the iconic one. That's the one it was sold with, and it's just so different. And I think that would sort of appeal to Sakurai and like being able to do different things. And as far as like which stage will actually show up, I think it'll be the one based on the I think it was the Chinese bit.
Yeah, it was called Chai.
Yeah, it's the one that had the actual music in Brawl, and so it would just make sense to have that as a stage as well. Plus, you got the hopping zombies all over the place, and
Right.
just all kinds of fun stuff they could do with that. So Super Mario Land would probably be the obvious choice for for it being as a part of the stage.
And so you think it would actually be a scrolling stage too, right?
I don't know if it'd be a scrolling stage or they just take a little section of it in there, because the levels were like, I don't know if the levels are ideally designed for a Smash thing, but I don't know. I think I'd just take a small section and just like, especially since if we're going to go with the idea that it's trading between multiple games, then it's probably going to just be a static stage that they transition, back and forth.
That's my guess too. I think another pretty obvious choice for a game that'll be represented here is the original Kirby's Dream Land.
Oh yeah.
Especially given it's Sakurai, it's Kirby.
And given that Kirby's in this picture already.
Exactly, and so is DDD, and I think a pretty an appropriate iconic area from that game would be the final boss arena, DDD's boxing ring.
Took my idea.
No, there you go. Yeah, well, sorry about that.
That's all right. That ties in perfectly with what we with the boxing ring already too.
Yeah. Also, but not just that though. There's Green Greens as well, and that's just kind of an iconic area anyway because it's the first level and the music. Everyone knows the music, so that could also be an area as well.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Kirby, actually, I would love to see a Kirby's Pinball Land arena. Like I could see it. You play on a platform like in the middle of the playing field, and then like if you get KO'd to the bottom or you get knocked off the screen, like the bumpers or the flippers at the bottom can like flip you back up into the stage.
Oh, nice. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be very chaotic.
Yes, it would be. That's why I like it.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody that thinks that Game Boy, everybody had this game, and that'd be Tetris. And if they could actually get a Tetris themed level in there, that'd be that'd be really cool to see.
That'd be amazing.
It'd be very different because
Yeah.
you'd have you'd actually have the sides there. So I guess you only get vertical smashes, and that would sort of solve the problem of the limited real estate. So you're just bouncing around all over in the that tiny area while blocks fall down, and you can even act as platforms as they're dropping.
Yeah, like I really just want to stress how that is the iconic Game Boy game.
Oh,
Like,
absolutely.
you know, if not, I mean, it's second to only maybe Pokemon, and I would even argue for Tetris more so than Pokemon, as being iconic of the Game Boy. Yeah, that game, like, I feel like it almost needs to be represented here, because when you think Game Boy, you think Tetris. Like, everyone thinks of Tetris when they think of the Game Boy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just mainly a rights issue at this point.
Yeah,
because
that would
I don't
be
think, Nintendo doesn't own any of the rights to Tetris. I don't think.
But
so
that's true, but they did get the Tetris music into Smash Bros.
that's
Brawl.
true.
Which
they did.
yeah.
So, I think another likely candidate to show up is Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters.
Oh, yeah.
Just because that's a vertical scrolling game anyway, so that could transition very easily into a stage like this where you have different platforms that you kind of have to hop between as they scroll off screen, kind of like the Donkey Kong stage that no one likes for Brawl, but maybe a little more charming since it is based on a Game Boy game. And obviously, Kid Icarus is another Sakurai franchise, it's now a Sakurai franchise. And he has a lot of love for it, so I think that's pretty likely.
That's a good point. Actually, I think it'd be really cool if they had a vertically scrolling stage and then a side-scrolling one that they go with, like Mario Land as a scrolling stage, for instance.
Right.
So speaking of which, actually, what I think could be another cool stage would be from Mario Land 2. Specifically, they went with one of the space-themed levels, which had like lower gravity and everything. So,
Oh, yeah.
So you could like hop around and like maybe dodge the star obstacles they had. Whatever. I just want like a low gravity level based on Mario Land 2.
They could also bring in Tatanga for that part.
You're right. That's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
they could do a twofer there with that, with the space themed one.
That would
But
be really cool.
Come on, everybody! If anybody thinks of Mario Land 2, it's always the ball level.
Yeah.
Hold on. Ball.
Oh come on, you forgot about the ball level?
Yep. I'm thinking.
It's the world with the Mario toy thing, and the level is based out of his like crotch.
Oh,
and it's full of balls.
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
No, I just think about the balls.
That's fun.
I think that is already the quote of the night for the discussion we're doing. I just think about the balls. That's all you need, without any context. That's all you need.
Oh, jeez. No, I'm kind of surprised you haven't thought about this one, Andre, because you love this game so much. Donkey Kong 94.
So I actually did think of it, then dismissed it because I thought the camera had to be zoomed out too far. But there is a. Now that I think about it, I mean, they did that exact same thing in Brawl with that, with the Donkey Kong stage where the camera is really zoomed out at points. So yeah, maybe it could work here, or a level based on a section of that.
Yeah. That was on my list too.
That'd be awesome.
Something I think is very possible and might make up for the Wii U and 3DS versions having the same Mega Man stage is a classic Mega Man game for the Game Boy.
I was actually thinking the same thing, Ash. I had Mega Man V down because I was like,
Yeah.
okay, here's your opportunity. Make up for it.
Yeah, Mega Man 5 would be great because that game, as a lot of fans know, has the Star Droids, which are original to the Mega Man universe, and 5 was the only one that wasn't a kind of not a port, but reused assets and characters from the NES games. So having even one stage or even one of the bosses show up for Mega Man 5 for a little bit would be really cool, I think.
And that could be why he didn't get his own stage in the 3DS one. So
Yeah.
maybe that's it. So another thing I think could be cool would be something from Link's Awakening. The problem with that, though, is that's a top-down game, and this is a side-scrolling game. So what they could do is go with either one of the side-scrolling areas of the game, of which there are many, or maybe something more iconic that's not quite side-scrolling, but they could easily make it one, like something like Mount Tamaranch, where you see, I believe that's the mountain where you have the windfish egg at the top. So maybe you could interact with the egg and break the windfish free or something, and he'd fly around or something.
Yeah. Also, or you could even co-op the opening cutscene where Marin is walking along the beach toward Link,
Ooh.
or even the cutscene where Link and Marin are kind of sharing that romantic moment about halfway through the game, because that's from from a side view, and
That's
the
true.
characters could easily fight on the beach like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be cool.
That'd be good. That'd be really cool, especially you have the mountain in the background and you can see the wind egg up there. That would sort of mix and match the two.
Yeah.
Totally.
I've always had a lot of love for this game, and I'd love to see it represented here as well. That's Metroid 2 on the Game Boy. Just Metroids flying around, and because especially the further evolved forms of the Metroids as they gestate and become bigger, and have like the Alpha Metroid back there. And it'd be really cool to see all the different Metroids flying around and having to dodge them, and I don't know, it'd be really cool, I think.
Yeah, I think so. That was actually my next one, but I can another one I can do instead. But Alleyway was one of the first games launched along with the Game Boy. Something that I always kind of had a soft spot for, and it's basically like a Brick Breaker type game, but it had kind of a Mario aesthetic to it. You played as Mario inside this little paddle where you're busting down Mario themed block puzzles. And I could easily see Alleyway, because that was one of the first games they released on the 3DS Virtual Console for the Game Boy, and it's a launch game alongside Super Mario Land and Tetris. So if Sakurai really wants to dig deep and pull out a really old game, I could see Alleyway being one of them.
Yeah, I feel like we will see some off-the-wall choices here. And it's also possible he'll go with some Japanese-only games, too.
We could probably be almost guaranteed that there might be at least some kind of reference to Pokemon Red and Blue.
Yeah, I guess, but they might run into the Link's Awakening problem, but I don't remember there being any side-scrolling sections from those games.
Not really, but they could sort of co-opt some of the ideas, like, I don't know, maybe the Pokemon Tower or something like that would be good.
That's true.
Because you can sort of find ways around it, I would like to think, especially because look at the screen they're fighting on right here, where they're literally standing on nothing.
That's true.
So they could find ways around that and really just play with it.
Or it could just be it also could just be a battle scene, like you could just have Pokemon fighting in the background.
Oh, that'd be cool. Have to dodge the attacks that they're going against each other. That'd be awesome. Come on, guys. I think we're all forgetting the best use of the Game Boy that everybody remembers, and that would be the Game Boy camera.
Oh!
I figured it out just as you started saying it.
God, that'd be so good.
Just have even awesome. If it uses the internal camera of it randomly, like if you're playing online, it randomly chooses a person to use the internal camera, and then you can see like their face on the screen. That'd be stuff like that.
Oh, that would actually be.
That's a very Sakurai
awesome.
thing to do too.
Dude, that is brilliant. No, that is straight up brilliant. Like I don't even care if they don't make it interactive at all. Like it could just be a background thing. Although I can't see them using that online just for safety reasons, but I could see it being for local multiplayer.
Mm-hmm. I think it'd just be really fun, and it's sort of like, once again, that quirky little thing that Sakurai likes to reference on occasion. So yeah, I think the Game Boy camera would be a lot of fun to see implemented here, and it actually makes sense because you don't have to reference any specific game as well. It's its own thing that's specifically Game Boy.
All right. Well, do you guys have any final thoughts or impressions or anything you wanted to mention about the stage that we haven't mentioned that we haven't talked about yet?
Well, at this point, I really hope it is a stage after we talked about it for so long.
Right?
Yeah, really. Watch after all this. It's just not a stage.
It's just a mode.
It's trolled by Sakurai in the worst way.
It's just like this is just like a new use for stickers you can find in the game. You just put them on the Game Boy screen. And, but yeah, I think this stage has the potential to be awesome. The Game Boy. I grew up with a Game Boy. I was like 5 or 6 when it came. I was like 5 when it came out. Mm-hmm. Not even that. And only a couple years older when I finally got one. So like this is my history, and I am super stoked to see what all they do with it, assuming there's more to it than just the Nintendo logo. Alright, well that wraps up for our Game Boy themed discussion, so thanks guys for watching. If you liked our discussion, make sure to like and follow us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplainers. You can find links to in the description below, so go away to keep up to date on everything we post, including our upcoming Smash Bros. Weekly video, which will cover the rest of the week very soon. And of course, keep an eye on GameXplain.com for more on Smash Bros. Wii U and 3DS and other things gaming as well. Alright, thanks guys. Bye.